Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, because those are the men who I learned this truth from through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi. Yahweh is the true name of the God of Israel. Yahawashi is who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one and only true name is Yahawashi. And pretty much I'll be going over 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter. Like I said, I'm going to be going over all of Apostle Paul's epistles, aka letters, because it's very relevant to today. All the things that Apostle Paul and the righteous men that was under him had to deal with, we're all dealing with the same exact things. Why? Because history repeats itself. All right? So all the things that you see today, false prophets, guys extorting the church, men being exposed, all these different false prophets and bad examples, that was going on 2,000 plus years ago. So that's why it's good to read these chapters so you can get a clearer understanding of what's going on today. All right, so this is 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter. And like I say in my other videos, I'll be going back and forth simultaneously between the NLT version and the KJV version, because the NLT version is very good for the New Testament. All right. So now the topic that this chapter is going to be dealing with is apostasy. That's actually going to this word apostasy. See what it says. Right. It says, apostasy, the abandonment of a renunciation of a religious or political belief. Let's see what else it could say. It says, it can also be understood as the act of giving up one's loyalty to a political party. So aka these false prophets, these guys that take bribes, they teach their own private interpretations of the scriptures and pass it off as doctrine, when really it's just a tradition of men, right? It says, it can also be understood as the act of giving up one's loyalty to a political party, cause, or other organization. A person who abandons their religious or political beliefs is called an apostate. So this is what the different men of the Lord, including Yahawashi himself, the 12 disciples that walked with him, they had to deal with this. A lot of apostates, a lot of apostasies, right? Let's see what else. So, I mean, that's pretty much it, all right? So now, let's jump back. So the apostasies is going into false prophets ultimately. Let me see what the NLT says. Warnings against false teachers, aka false prophets. It says 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter, and verse 1. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times, we're in the latter times. The latter times began when Yahawashi was on the scene 2,000 plus years ago, when he walked the earth in the flesh. All right, that was the time of the end. But the scriptures say what? That the deadly wound was healed, meaning that the ancient Roman Empire, the nation that was ruling over it, which was the nation of Edom, the so-called white man in Zebulon, they were back in rulership from the point of the Renaissance all the way up until right now. All right. So Rome has been revived in the form of America ultimately, but as well as the EU that makes up what? This beast system that we're all under. All right. So we're in the latter times. So it says, some shall depart from the faith. The same thing was going on back during that time. You had men that walked with Apostle Paul. All right. And then they went back into the world. A good example of that is a man named Demas. All right. You read in one chapter, he was with Apostle Paul. He was teaching. He was with him. Right. Then another chapter, it'll say Demas hath forsaken me, loving this present world. What's the examples you see today? Guys, they was in the truth for a long ass time. Right. Men that was in the camp for a period of time, and then they get disenchanted. They go back into the world. Why? Because they don't want to bear their cross. They don't want to put off their selfish desires. All right. It says, shall depart from the faith. You got guys taking bribes. You got guys that are actual cops and law enforcement. You got guys that are agents and agent provocateurs. You see what the love of money would do to an individual, how it will corrupt the individual? It'll make an Israelite man forsake his own God, which is Yahweh, and his Messiah, Yahweh Shai. All right? So you got people departing from the faith. They're getting disenchanted. They're becoming offended for the wrong reasons. They start teaching false doctrine, right? They start saying things like, oh, I was a part of a cult. I was in a racist cult. This is what's really going on, y'all, in these particular camps. It says, giving heed to seducing spirits. And then you got dumbass people that listen to these reprobate people that lost their faith, right? And doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience sealed with an hot iron. Let's read that in the NLT is better. 1 Timothy 4:1. Now the Holy Spirit tells us clearly that in the last times or last days, some will turn away from the true faith. See, what Great Millstone teaches through Yahushua blood and sacrifice is the true faith, right? They will follow deceptive spirits. These guys that are false prophets that we do videos on, whether it be a Hebrew Israelite man or woman or child, right? We do videos to what? To exhort you to stay away from these people. Why? Because they teach doctrines of devils. They denied Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. It's clear. It's clear. It says, some will turn away from the true faith. They will follow deceptive spirits and teachings that come from demons, right? Because they got demons on them. They got a legion of demons on them now. These people are hypocrites and liars, and their conscience are dead. It says, they will say it is wrong to be married and wrong to eat certain foods. And we've seen this over the years. You got one particular camp, you know, you can't eat chicken. You know, you see this fat ass prophet, he's eating lobster, crab, he's eating pork, and he's throwing it in your face. Like, yeah, this is what Yahushua died for. All praise, honor, and glory goes to our Mashiach Yahushua for allowing me to eat this juicy worm meat called pork, right? Y'all see these examples. So this is why I'm going into the chapter, because we're experiencing the same things that we experienced 2,000 plus years ago, right? We're witnessing the enemies of the cross, the men that was against Yahushua, the 12 disciples, and the different men of the Lord. It says, they will say it is wrong to be married and wrong to eat certain foods, right? You got IUYC, they'll teach you that you can't have multiple wives. Now, is that a thing that's expedient? No, but there's certain brothers that got multiple wives, all right? Ain't nothing wrong with that. Just don't be married to the state so you don't get in trouble. It says, yep. But the Most High created those foods to be eaten with thanks by faithful people who know the truth. Yeah, and the Most High, he not going to make a law and then tell you to go against the law, saying that, oh, my son died so you could be you could willfully sin and eat pork. Come on, man, you people are stupid. Verse 4, NLT, since everything the Most High created is good, we should not reject any of it, but receive it with thanks. For we know it is made acceptable by the word of the Most High and prayer. Now let's switch back to the KJV and go to verse 6, right? Now this is dealing with a good minister's discipline, right? Because in this truth, you got to go through discipline. You got to discipline yourself in different ways. It says, if thou put the brethren in remembrance of these things, thou shalt be a good minister of Yahushua Mashiach, nourished up in the words of faith and of good doctrine, whereunto thou hast obtained. But refuse profane and old wives' fables, and exercise thyself rather unto godliness. Let me read that in the NLT. Yep, 1 Timothy 4:7. It says, do not waste time arguing over godless ideas and old wives' tales. Instead, train yourself to be godly. Exactly. It says physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life and in the life to come. Exactly. You get built up in this truth, and it makes you wise unto salvation through your faith. This is a trustworthy saying. and everyone should accept it. This is why we work hard and continue to struggle, for our hope is in the living God, who is the Savior of all people, not just any people, the Israelites, right? And particularly of all believers. Believers is only coming out of the seed line of Israel, right? Switch back, verse 11. It says, these things command and teach. Let no man despise thy youth, because when you come into the truth, you come in your youth, right? The Most High is building you up at a young age so that when you get older, you're establishing the faith. If you're part of the elect and if you're still around, right? Most men, they come into the truth as a young man. It says, but be thou an example of the believers. Exactly. You know, brothers see other brothers' trials and tribulations you go through, and they respect you for it, even if they never tell you, right? It says, in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and purity, till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. So this is what Apostle Paul in a letter is telling Timothy, which is like his spiritual son in the faith, since Timothy learned this truth from Apostle Paul, right? It says, till I come, give attendance to reading, right? You gotta meditate in the word. You gotta read chapters, you gotta go into current events, linking with Bible prophecy, you gotta go into secular history, ancient manners and customs, you gotta go into the paleo Hebrew. There's a lot of things you gotta tackle being in the truth. It's not just 4 men or 5 or 6 men that's going to do every topic. Everybody need to touch on everything. All right? Verse 14. Neglect not the gift that is in thee, which is this truth. Any way you could benefit the truth and spread the truth, that's considered a gift, right? It says, which was given thee by prophecy, right? Because every man got his own spiritual office. It says, with the laying on the hands of the presbytery, right? Now, I'm going to read this in the NLT, and then I'm going to actually go into that word, presbytery, right? Yep, so this is, that was 14. 1 Timothy 4 and 14, NLT. Do not neglect the spiritual gift you received through the prophecy spoken over you when the elders of the church laid their hands on you, all right? So, presbytery, that's going into the elders, but let's just go into the word anyway. So the word for presbytery in the Greek,
Strong's G 4244, Presbyterian.
all right, let's go down here. Yep, elders. It says body of elders, presbytery, senate, council. It says of the Jewish leaders, which were Israelites. We ain't Jewish, right? But you get what it's talking about. Of the elders of any body, assembly of Christians, which we know the Christians, pursuant to Acts the 6th and 11th chapter, is Jews that followed the Messiah, all right? Not just anybody. So the presbytery talk about the elders. It says, verse 15, meditate upon these things, give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. Take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine, right? Not doctrines, doctrine. Continue in them. Continue in what you learned from men of the Lord. Keep the legacy going. Pass down the legacy. It says, for in doing this, thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee, because hearing this gospel makes the elect of the nation of Israel wise unto salvation. All right? So that's 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter. Lord willing, you was edified. Shalom.